my latest score from the National Farm Toy Show. It's a 1/20th scale cat excavator, I believe model 330DL. It's made by Diecast Masters. I think it's the first remote control model that they've made, and it's entirely made out of steel. The bucket is all steel, all the arms are steel. I believe they use a servo or a spiral motor instead of any kind of hydraulic system or actuator. I'm not really sure on all the details on that, but it is relatively quick. You can see all the tracks have high detail. Some decent interior cab detail. You pop open the little battery tray. It takes a little LiPo battery. Comes with a charger, a little USB charger. And it's actually pretty darn powerful. That's pretty neat. Let's go ahead and fire it up. There's a little switch on the bottom. Flip that on first. Come over to the controller, flip it on. Make a couple beeps to tell that it's all synced up and paired. And the nice thing about this, it actually moves entirely like an excavator with the full controls. So the bucket can move independently from all the arms as well as it spins, and then you can fold it back up. The other nice thing that I noticed is if you get sick of that sound, you can press that button and turn it off. In the manual, it talks about what these other buttons are going to be for something in the future, so I'm not sure if there's some way of doing a firmware update or if they're going to plan on adding some new attachments to that bucket. But just as it sits, it's pretty stinking fun. The controls are pretty basic controller with your joysticks to run the actual bucket and boom, and of course for the other side. And then you have the buttons here and here for your left track to go forward and back, and then for the other side forward and back as well. If I was going to be critical of one thing, it would be that I wish these panels would open up and maybe just a little bit of detail, even if it was just a basic casting. I think that would be kind of a nice accent onto here. It's got a few holes back here. I don't know if that's just to make it scale or if they're going to have some kind of cage or attachment that'll go in there as well. It would also be kind of nice, you know, if the doors would open up, you know, like you'll see on some of the lower end models, like Brooder, for instance. I'd originally planned to actually build one of these out of a Brooder. I've got another video, and I can link it in the description, where I converted a Brooder dozer over to remote control using some continuous drive servos, and had pretty successful luck with that. I'm not really sure on how I could do these as nicely detailed to be to scale on a Brooder dozer. So when I found this at the 2019 National Farm Toy Show, I pretty much had to have it. I ended up getting a little bit of a deal from the seller there. He only had the one. He claims that there's about 1,000 of these made, and I'm not sure if they're going to make this model ever again. But he did say that they were talking about making more models in the future, perhaps a dump truck or a dozer or a front end loader. Some nice little details here. If you flip on the engine, you'll get a little bit of a work light. I haven't actually tested it in the dark to know, you know, how nice that actually is. Looks like I got a little bit dirty when I was out there. I did go ahead and bring it back in and blew it off with the air compressor. And then I figure once it all dries up, it's a little bit muddy out here after everyone harvesting, I'll probably come back in and just take it off with a brush, and it should look about as good as new. I was a little bit hesitant to spend the money on it because I wasn't sure on what kind of parts they would have, but I believe this company's been around for a little bit, and they have, you know, every intention of making more models. So I think if anything goes wrong, there should be some parts that I can get replaced from there, but that's something I do want to confirm with them. The undercarriage is pretty plain and basic, made in China, a couple little stickers there. Diecast Masters there, of course, is the on-off switch. Might as well just go ahead and shut her off. And you can kind of get a feel for what it all looks like underneath. I believe all these rollers are metal, along with the tracks are all metal. Little area for the sound module, possibly. It is a pretty impressive unit. Little size comparison here. It is next to an old Tonka that I've got sitting around. At 1/20th scale, it is actually pretty big. Most of the toys that I collect are around 1/16 scale, and most of the RC cars that I have are a little bit closer to 1/10 scale or even 1/5 scale. And it is no slouch by any means. Overall, I think this is a pretty solid model. I'm not sure what else we could change other than the things I mentioned. The details are subtle, but the metal is heavy, and that gives you quite a bit more weight when actually digging. I took it out today to try it just a little bit, and I stirred up the dirt a little bit in the field, but it's pretty mucky, so I was having a little bit of a hard time to actually keep the dirt in the bucket. But I think on a dry day, if I had some pretty nice soil or even possibly some sand, I could get a pretty nice video out of that, and it would dig pretty efficiently.